Thanksgiving was supposed to be about gratitude, family, and togetherness. At least, that's what people say. In my family, it had always been about appearances who looked successful, who impressed the relatives, and who deserved praise. And I was never that person. That year, the dining table was packed. Relatives laughed loudly, wine glasses clinked, and my parents sat at the head of the table like royalty. My sister sat beside them, glowing with confidence. She had always been their pride, the golden child. Straight A's, perfect career, perfect life. Everything about her was celebrated. I was the afterthought. When it came time to exchange gifts, my mother stood up dramatically, smiling as if she were hosting a show. "Let's start with your sister," she announced. She handed my sister a large, glossy envelope. My sister opened it slowly, already smiling. Inside was a luxury cruise package, first class, all expenses paid. The room erupted in applause. "How wonderful. You're so lucky. Your parents are amazing." My parents basked in the praise. Then my mother turned to me. "And for you?" she said, her smile tightening. She handed me something small, very small, a thin, crumpled envelope. I opened it. Inside was a $2 lottery ticket. Laughter filled the room. Someone joked, "Well, at least you have a chance." Another said, "Maybe luck will finally help you." My father chuckled. We thought it suited him. I felt my face burn. Not because of the ticket, but because of the intention behind it. This wasn't a gift. It was a message. You are worth less. You deserve less, and everyone should see it. I forced a smile. Years of being overlooked had taught me how to hide pain well. I nodded, folded the ticket, and slipped it into my pocket. "Thank you," I said quietly. Inside, something broke. Dinner continued as if nothing had happened. My sister talked excitedly about her cruise plans. My parents nodded proudly. No one asked how I felt. No one ever did. That night, I drove home alone. I sat in my car for a long time before going inside, staring at the steering wheel, replaying the laughter in my head. I had spent my entire life trying to earn their approval, working harder, staying quiet, never complaining. And still, I was the joke. Inside my apartment, I tossed my jacket on the couch and pulled the lottery ticket from my pocket. I stared at it for a moment, then laughed bitterly. "Why not?" I muttered. I scratched it absent-mindedly, not expecting anything. Just something to distract me from the humiliation. The numbers appeared slowly. At first, I thought I was reading it wrong. I checked again, then again. My heart started pounding. I grabbed my phone, opened the lottery app, and entered the numbers with shaking fingers. The screen froze for a second. Then it refreshed. Vinna $50. 000. I stopped breathing. My vision blurred. My hands trembled so badly I dropped the phone. I picked it up again, convinced it was a mistake. It wasn't. I had just won $50 million. The room felt unreal. The silence was deafening. The same ticket that had been used to humiliate me, used to prove I was nothing, had just changed my life forever. I sank onto the couch, laughing and crying at the same time. My parents didn't know. My sister didn't know. None of them knew what had just happened, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to tell them. I thought about the laughter at the table, the smirks, the way my father had said, "We thought it suited him." They were right about one thing. That ticket suited me, because it didn't just bring money, it brought clarity. I realized something powerful in that moment. The people who tried to make you feel small are never ready for the version of you that no longer needs their approval. I wiped my face, stood up, and looked around my tiny apartment. "This is just the beginning," I whispered. They had given me a joke, but fate had given me everything. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I was celebrating, but because my mind wouldn't stop racing. $50 million. The number didn't feel real. It felt like a typo, a glitch, something that would disappear the moment I closed my eyes. So I didn't. I sat on the edge of my bed with my laptop open, refreshing the lottery website again and again. Every time, the same words stared back at me. Confirmed winner. $50 million. It was real. And suddenly, the humiliation from dinner felt distant. smaller, like something that belonged to an old version of me. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but every name that came to mind felt wrong. My parents? No. My sister? Definitely not. Friends? They wouldn't understand, not yet. This wasn't just money. This was leverage. This was freedom. And freedom demanded silence. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. Same routine, same clothes, same quiet existence everyone was used to ignoring. My coworkers complained about bills and bosses. I nodded along, hiding the truth behind neutral expressions. Inside, I was changing. On my lunch break, I made the first smart move of my life. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A firm that specialized in high net worth confidentiality. We take privacy very seriously, the woman on the phone said. So do I replied. By the end of the call, I had a plan. Claim the prize anonymously. Set up trusts. Move slowly. No flashy moves. No sudden upgrades. No mistakes. That afternoon, my mother called. Her tone was cheerful, too cheerful. Did you enjoy Thanksgiving? She asked. I paused. It was memorable. She laughed. Good. Your sister is still talking about the cruise. We really spoiled her this year. And me? I asked calmly, a beat of silence. Well, you know, it was just a bit of fun. Fun. I looked around the break room, peeling paint, buzzing lights, people who barely noticed me. Yeah, I said. Fun. She changed the subject quickly, talking about family plans, upcoming holidays, how busy they were. Not once did she ask how I was doing. I ended the call politely, but something inside me hardened. That weekend, I drove past my parents' house for the first time since Thanksgiving. Same manicured lawn, same expensive cars, same image of perfection. They looked so secure, so confident. They had no idea that the balance of power had already shifted. Over the next few weeks, I worked in silence. Lawyers, financial advisors, accountants, everything done discreetly. I didn't buy anything extravagant. No new car, no new apartment. I wanted them comfortable, complace. I learned something important during that time. Money doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been. And I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. One evening, my sister called. Hey, she said casually. We're planning another family dinner. You should come. Why? I asked. She laughed. Don't be weird. Your family. Family. I thought about the cruise photos she'd already posted. The comments praising our parents. The way she hadn't defended me at the table, not even once. I'll think about it, I said. After hanging up, I walked to the window of my apartment and looked out at the city. For the first time, I didn't feel small in it. I felt untouchable, because while they were celebrating appearances, I was building reality. I started imagining the future, not in revenge fantasies, but in quiet victories. Helping people who had been overlooked like me. Creating distance from those who saw love as conditional. And maybe, just maybe, showing my family what it feels like to be on the other side of indifference. Not with anger, but with control. Because the greatest shock wouldn't be the money. It would be the moment they realized I no longer needed them. And that moment was coming, soon. Time has a funny way of humbling people. 2 months after Thanksgiving, my phone started ringing more often, but not with congratulations or concern. With need. It began with my father. His voice sounded different. Slower. Less commanding. Hey, he said. You busy? I almost laughed. This was the same man who used to end calls abruptly whenever I tried to talk about my life. Not really, I replied. Well, we might need a little help, he said, clearing his throat. Just temporary. There it was, the word he had never used before. I stayed silent. Your mother's medical insurance lapsed, he continued, and some investments didn't work out. We're restructuring. Restructuring. Another pretty word for trouble. I see, I said calmly. Could you maybe lend us something? Not much. Just until things stabilize. I looked at the wall clock ticking steadily above my desk. $50 million sat quietly behind layers of legal protection, untouchable, invisible. Let me think about it, I said. That night, my sister texted me, "Hey, haven't talked in a while, how are you?" I stared at the smiley face. I couldn't remember the last time she'd asked me that. I replied simply, "I'm good." Seconds later, "We should catch up. Family dinner soon?" Family dinner. Interesting how that invitation resurfaced right when money problems did. At the next dinner, I arrived on time. Same clothes, same car, same version of me they thought they understood, but they watched me differently now. My mother smiled too much. My sister kept complimenting small things, my job, my posture, even my haircut. "You seem confident?" my sister said, narrowing her eyes. "Something change?" I shrugged. "I've been thinking," my father cleared his throat. "So, about what we talked about." I set my fork down slowly. "Before we talk numbers," I said, "I have a question." They leaned in. "Do you remember what you gave me on Thanksgiving?" My mother laughed awkwardly. "Oh, that silly lottery ticket?" "Yes," I said. "That," my sister rolled her eyes. "Don't tell me you're still hung up on that." I smiled. Calm, controlled. "No," I said. "I just find it interesting how small things can mean a lot depending on who receives them." Silence. My father shifted uncomfortably. "Look, we didn't mean—" "It's fine," I interrupted. "I'm not angry." That was the truth. Anger had burned out weeks ago. "I can help," I continued. "But not like before." They all froze. "What do you mean?" my mother asked. "I mean," I said evenly, "this won't be unconditional. No more assumptions. No more dismissals." My sister frowned. "You're acting strange." "No," I replied. "I'm acting equal." I explained my terms. Alone. Documented. With boundaries. No control over my decisions. No guilt. No expectations of loyalty beyond basic respect. My father stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "You've changed," he said. I nodded. Yes, I had to. After dinner, my sister followed me to the door. "Be honest," she whispered. "Did something happen? Did you come into money or something?" I met her eyes. "If I did," I said, "would it change how you treat me?" She didn't answer. That told me everything. Weeks later, I transferred the money exactly as agreed. Enough to help, not enough to empower them over me. The shift was immediate. Suddenly, my calls were returned. My opinions were asked for. My presence mattered, but it felt hollow because I knew the truth. They didn't value me. They valued what I could do for them. And that was okay. Because for the first time in my life, I was in control of the distance. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was choosing peace with boundaries. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. The biggest reveal was still ahead. They still didn't know where the money really came from. And when they found out, everything would change. Secrets don't stay buried forever. Mine slipped out on a random Tuesday afternoon by accident. Not confession. I was at a cafe near my office when I ran into an old coworker, Mark. He had left the company years ago but always kept in touch. "Man," he laughed, shaking his head. "Still can't believe your luck." I raised an eyebrow. "What luck?" He leaned closer. "The lottery win. 50 million? That's insane." The barista paused mid-pour. I felt my stomach drop. Mark's smile faded. "You didn't tell them, did you?" "No," I said quietly. "And I'd like to keep it that way." Too late. The barista had already looked at me like I was a headline. That night, my sister called. Not texted. Called. Her voice was sharp. Too sharp. "Did you win the lottery?" she asked without greeting. I closed my eyes. "Where did you hear that?" "So it's true," she snapped. "You lied to us." "I didn't lie," I said calmly. "I didn't tell." "That's the same thing," she yelled. "Do you know how selfish that is?" Selfish. The word landed heavy. "You got $50 million, she continued. "And you let Mom stress about hospital bills?" I stayed quiet. "You made us beg," she said. "You enjoyed that, didn't you?" "No," I replied. "I needed to see who you were without knowing." There was a long pause. Then, she hung up. The next morning, my parents showed up at my door, unannounced. My mother was crying. My father looked furious. "You humiliated us," my father said the moment I opened the door. "Letting us talk about loans when you were sitting on a fortune." I stepped aside. "Come in." "Versalt." "I didn't hide the money to hurt you," I said. "I hid it to protect myself." My mother shook her head. "From your own family?" "Yes," I said softly. "From being reduced to a wallet." My father slammed his hand on the table. "You owe us. We raised you." I met his eyes. "You raised me, but you never saw me." Silence swallowed the room. My sister stormed in late, eyes blazing. "So what now?" she demanded. "You think you're better than us?" "No," I said. "I think I'm finally equal." She laughed bitterly. "Then prove it. Help us. Really help us." "There it is," I said. "The test." I stood and walked to the window. "I will help," I said. "But this is how it works now." They watched closely. No more control. No more favoritism. No more emotional debts. My father scoffed. "And if we refuse? Then you get nothing," I said plainly. My sister's face twisted. "You're threatening us." "No," I replied. "I'm offering honesty." My mother whispered. "When did you become like this?" I turned back to them. "When you stopped listening." That night, I transferred another amount significant, but locked behind clear conditions. Legal contracts, transparency, respect. My sister didn't speak to me for weeks. Then she called again. This time, her voice cracked. "I didn't think you'd actually say no to me," she admitted. "I didn't think you'd only call when you wanted something," I replied. Another silence. But this one felt different, because for the first time, the power wasn't loud. It was quiet, controlled, and irreversibly. They finally knew the truth, but they still didn't understand it. Money didn't change me. It exposed them. And the final chapter? That would decide whether we were still a family, or just people who shared a last name. The days after the confrontation were strange. The house that had once felt like a stage for judgment now felt hollow. My parents moved carefully around me, their voices polite but strained, like actors fumbling lines they hadn't rehearsed. My sister avoided my eyes, unsure whether to resent me or admire me. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The power wasn't in money or revenge, it was in autonomy. In the simple act of living on my terms. I spent my mornings walking through the city streets, coffee in hand, enjoying the small freedoms that came from finally being untethered. Afternoons were for work, evenings for planning new investments, philanthropy, and helping people who had been overlooked like me. Every day, I grew stronger, more confident, and more certain that I didn't need validation from anyone who had tried to humiliate me. One afternoon, my sister finally approached me. She hesitated in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes filled with conflicting emotions. "Ethan," she started. "Yes?" I said, calm. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For Thanksgiving. For everything. I never realized." "Don't," I interrupted gently. "Apologies don't change the past. Actions do. And the actions you've shown now that matters more." She looked down, blinking rapidly. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't hurt me," I said. "Not really. You just reminded me why I needed to stand on my own." Her lips pressed together, unsure what to say. I gave her a small, sincere smile. It wasn't smug, it was closure. That night, I stood on my balcony, looking out at the city. The skyline glittered like the possibilities ahead. $50 million had been the ticket. Yes, but it was my courage, patience, and resilience that had transformed my life. I thought about my parents, about all the years of being overlooked, and I forgave them not because they deserved it, but because I finally understood that their approval was never mine to seek. The next day, I made a decision. I set up a foundation in my name to support people who, like me, had been underestimated or ignored. The joy of watching others rise on their own terms became a reward far greater than any lottery win. Months later, my parents reached out again. This time, their tone was softer, cautious, "Can we visit?" my mother asked. I paused. And then I said yes, but only on my terms. They could come, but respect, boundaries, and acknowledgement of past neglect were prerequisites. For the first time, I realized that being the good son didn't mean being a doormat. Being Ethan Miller meant living fully, fiercely, and independently. As they drove up, I felt no resentment, only strength. My sister waved from the car, her eyes now tinged with admiration. My parents approached slowly, realizing that the dynamic had changed. I had not only survived their neglect, but I had thrived beyond anything they could imagine. At that moment, I understood the final truth. Life isn't about proving anything to those who underestimated you. It's about building something they can never take away. And for me, that something was complete freedom, self-respect, and the ability to live unapologetically as myself. $50 million had changed my circumstances, but standing tall, untethered, and unashamed that had changed me, and that, at last, was priceless.